Bye! My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back to another episode of Duck Dogs, everybody. I'm your host, Josh Miller. And before we get going here, I need to thank our wonderful partners that make this show possible. So thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend of food that I have my dogs on here at the kennel. And the dogs here, that my personal dogs, as they go into their training season. It's a great blend of food. We've had fantastic success on it. So I would highly suggest Eukanuba Sport 3020. If you're looking for a high-quality food to put your four-legged hunting partner on. Also, thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is your premium option for outdoor clothing. We, of course, all know about the clothing to get us in the field in the fall and the winter and keep us comfortable and out there longer, but their everyday wear does the exact same thing. It helps us stay outside and enjoy that time outside longer and more comfortably. So, www.sitkagear.com. Also, thank you to Kent Cartridge. Kent is our shotgun shell of choice. As we've just wrapped up the pheasant and waterfowl season, we're transitioning over to training, and they have us covered there with their blanks. So if you need field blanks, go check out www.kentcartridge.com for your training season blanks. Also, thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs. As we head into the training season, be sure to stock up, whether it's bumpers, whistles, whatever you need for training. Gun Dog Supply is going to have you covered. So www.gundogsupply.com. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test-rated kennel, both in the intermediate and in the large size. So no matter how big or small your hunting partner is, you can make sure that they are traveling as safe as they possibly can. www.luckyduck.com. And I would highly suggest you look into the kennel fan as well as you head into those warmer and hot months as we go into spring and summer training. That fan is going to help keep your dog safe and cool. So just another safety piece there from Lucky Duck. Last but not least, thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your premium option for training your own gun dog at home. And right now we have our spring training program that is out right now. And so with that, you're going to get the $200 initiation fee waived off to get you into that program. So it is a free entry point to get into the program, get into the community, and take advantage of all that that community has to offer. www.retrieverroadmap.com. Just a great way to help make sure that your training season is as successful as it possibly can be. All right, you guys. Well, I'm excited because I'm joined by a good friend of mine today, and I want to tell you what my next few episodes are kind of going to be based around, and I really want to go over the handler mindset. I really want to get into as we all go into our training season, where should our minds be as trainers? And we talk so much about having a game plan, sticking to that game plan, having goals that we're trying to achieve, and all that. That's great, but there is that mental approach side to this, right? How do you mentally get into the season? How do you approach this season? How do you assess how last season went hunting season wise, and what is going to prepare you for this training season? And I think we all are at different levels of that. And so what I want to do is I want to bring in a few different people that are friends of mine. They're very close to me, but they also all have very unique perspectives on how, one, they handle their seasons, but then two, how they handle their training to prepare for that next season, or maybe to fix what went on last season. And so this episode here, I'm joined by my very good friend Ben Commodore from Cloud9 Outfitters. I'm very proud to say that name, being that Ben has he took a leap of faith and started Cloud9 based on a passion of his, and he's done nothing but great things with it, and it's become a very quick, successful business, and I can't wait to see where that goes. So, Ben, first off, thank you for spending the time, and tell us a little bit about the outfitting business and kind of what you have going on up there.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Excited to be here. So for Cloud9, what we've got going on, we've got 2 locations up here. We've got a north and a south. We're completely waterfowl hunting all the way through, start to finish. We don't really touch on any of the big game stuff. And I think for us, it's just trying to, in a world where everybody offers something similar, how do we separate ourselves, and how do we, kind of our approach and the mental approach. And I think that you, Josh, especially, I know I've told you this, it's been a huge influence in that for me, and just, being a better leader, but also just the customer service, what you deliver to your customers, how you communicate with them, and just trying to provide that premium experience from start to finish, and long after you're gone. I mean, hopefully the finish doesn't ever end as you become a lifelong friend like you've established with your clientele.
Well, it's been a fun thing to kind of watch you take this from an idea, because you and I, I'm sure you recall, we had a lot of conversations about just the startup side of it, and you took what I would consider the big leap of faith that, quite frankly, holds a lot of people back. A lot of people have these ideas and have these aspirations and ambitions, but that's a very tough thing to do, is take that leap and know that I don't have a parachute anymore, and what does this look like? And from you, like Ben, you're the kind of person that one, I just think just with how genuinely kind and just the person, the human being that you are, I had a lot of confidence you were going to be successful just based off that. But then the work ethic too. I mean, in everything that I've known you in, whether it's your days in the industry, to your dog training, I mean, you take everything very passionately and very seriously, and so I can't wait to. I wish that that would have worked out for me to get up with you last year, but I can't wait to come this year and get to experience everything firsthand. And the people that I do know that have been up with you have nothing but raving things to say, which doesn't surprise me at all. But tell me a little bit about the leap part of it, because you not only took the leap, but you took the leap in a very vulnerable time in your life. You had I can't remember, were you expecting at the time, or were you a new father at the time? It was right in there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was a new father. Like, I think Bennett was 3 months maybe when we decided that let's go for it, take the jump. In terms of when it went public, it was, I mean, this has been a long, Heather and I my wife have had this conversation umpteen times for the last probably 10 years of this is something that I want to do. Without getting too in depth, my father he owned his own business. He was one of those that, he had goals and dreams. His was snowmobile tours, on the other side of the country. But for me, it's just, I had this goal, and I think a lot of it, and I credit a lot of it to you as well, of like dream chasing, taking a step. And, it came down to, I said to Heather, we had that conversation. I said, when Bennett's 17, 18, 19 years old and says, Dad, I want to do this, how can I look him in the eyes and tell him to chase a dream if I didn't take that risk? And I think that became the push of, I'm doing this for me, but I'm also doing this for him, because I have a very influential young person watching me in every step that I'm taking and what I'm doing. And I want to be able to tell him that whether it's hunting, whether it's dogs, I don't care what it is, whether he wants to follow mom steps and go get a PhD, I don't care what it is. Just give it your all and go for it. And if you happen to fall on your face for it, you can put your head down at night knowing you gave it everything you had, and it just didn't work. And I think that just, him, it was not easy. It is, I mean, it's a big risk. It's a big jump, big leap. Life's a little different in Canada and the US when it comes to opening an outfit. It's not just as simple as getting a business license and saying you're an outfitter. There's quite the cost involved to procure quality zones and that sort of thing. And so, it was a lot of back and forth, a lot of conversation, and it's something that, you can have all the confidence in in the world and yourself, and, have the support and the belief from people like you, but you still have that, my neck on the line and there's no safety, there's no parachute here.
That's right, dude. I don't know what it was different about just now, but I got goosebumps when you said that. We've talked about, Bennett, and just being the new father. We've talked about, I believe Heather, and I'm sure you would echo this, Heather's been an instrumental part of, taking the leap. And, I mean, if she wasn't there being supportive, probably would have never happened. Right. But man,
100%.
Yeah, something about, I it might be because I'm literally sitting here looking at, a picture of my kids of why it hit me, so hard this time. But, and there's so much to be said about that, man. Like, I think anyone that's been in that parent, figure, I can only speak to being a father, but I think especially in a father, role, I mean, that's what you want, right? You want to be leading by example. You want to be showing your kids that anything can be done if you put your mind to it and put the hard work in. And all parents say it, but to walk the walk is a completely different thing. And then, I think the one thing that you and I talked about a lot was that, this really isn't the right time to be doing this, right? Like with, Bennett. I think when we were originally talking about this, I think Bennett was expecting. I think it was, you had him in that, kind of conversation. Then of course he was there, when it became public, like you said, but it wasn't the right time. Like when you look at the right time, like when you are months away from being, a new father, like, it's not the right time, but it's never going to be the right time. You can always have a reason of why not to. And I vividly remember us talking about this. And the one thing that I do remember saying about this was, I believe if you fast forward 5 years from now, not only is this going to be wildly successful, but I think the only thing that you're going to say is, I wish I would have done it earlier, wish I would have done it sooner. And I think all of us could say that about anything that we've gone and made successful, but it is it's just that initial leap, man. Like I wish you could, obviously none of us have the crystal ball to look ahead and go, okay, it's going to be successful, so I know I can do it. But, that belief in yourself and knowing you can get there, I mean, it's a pretty special thing. And then to experience it and go put it, into action and to fruition like you have, it's been a fun thing to watch, man. So couldn't be more proud of you as a friend, couldn't be more proud of you as watching you as a father and as a husband lead the way you've been leading. Just great stuff. It really is.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's I didn't get to watch you with Riverstone, but watching you just with the rodeo stuff and what you've accomplished in the short amount of time that's been, and the dedication to it and the commitment to it, and just it's inspiring. And I know that that's not the intent of what the podcast is today. So for everyone listening, I'll step down off the soapbox a little bit here in a second, but I know I speak for myself. I speak for a bunch of members in the Retriever Roadmap community, and I'm certain a bunch more that maybe aren't part of the Retriever Roadmap. As an aside, you should be, but that listen to the Duck Dogs podcast. It is inspiring as all hell. Even if it's something as simple as to pick up a book and to start, that's where it started for me with you, with Jocko and everything. And it's been incredible, and it's been a huge, whether intentional or not by you, or whether you realize it or not, the reach and the impact that you have had overall on my life, specifically on Heather, on Bennett as a whole, because of my life changing and my approach. I'm forever grateful for it. I'm forever grateful for our friendship. And yeah, I guess I'll step off the soapbox and we can talk dogs.
That's all good stuff, man. I appreciate it more than words can explain. And I know our friendship reflects that. So Yeah, man, I think that's great. I think it's good to, for everyone to get a background of you. And if anyone is interested in looking for an extremely well put together hunt up in Canada for waterfowl, I would highly suggest you reach out to Ben. But let's talk about dogs, because I really want to dig into that again, that mental approach, the mindset that you specifically are taking with your dogs as you head into the training season. And what I think is so unique about you, Ben, in the situation that you are in, is being a guide. There are a lot of unique challenges that come up with being a guide. And when I say that, I mean from a dog standpoint. And I have to imagine that the way that you are going to go into the training and preparation for training season, and also how do we reflect on and fix what was unraveled during the hunting season, is going to be much different than a professional trainer. And when I say professional trainers, the reality is guys, most professional trainers don't hunt a bunch. That most of them don't, and so there's going to be a different preparation. There's going to be a different preparation for if you're a hunt 10 to 20 times a year guy with you and your dog. It's different if you're a weekend warrior at the game farm. It's going to be different for everybody. So I think understanding what other people are approaching, it might help you apply it to your preparation. And so I'll kind of kick this off a little bit, Ben, with a little bit of my perspective. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. So for me, coming from the pheasant ranch in particular, guiding was, I'll tell you what, I have a tremendous respect for what you guys are doing up there. Probably even more so after guiding at the pheasant ranch, because it was exhausting from a mental standpoint, right? Because these guys come in for a 3-day hunt, and they've been looking forward to these 3 days for months. So they're excited, they're jacked up, they want to hang out, they want to have drinks, they want to, it's the energy's high, which is awesome. And as that hunt goes on and those guys get it out of their system for those 3 days, they go home, and a day and a half later, another group comes in with the same thing. And so from my standpoint, from a mental standpoint, it was hard for me. The most difficult part of the season was to match that day one energy, every group, right? And so that was challenging, for me. You guys are doing even more than this with the scouting, with the decoy setups. You're doing more than I was, right? So I have to imagine that plays a factor into everything. So a ton of respect, for you there. But from a dog standpoint, what was interesting for me is that you are in a situation that you simply cannot correct your dog as you would like to, because there's an audience. If things start unraveling, things start going on, you just got to kind of roll with it, make the best of it, smile, laugh, and you're dying inside once in a while. But you just got to let it go. And part of this is, the snowball effect, right? So could you talk to me a little bit, do you see that same kind of a thing, in the waterfall guiding of this unraveling in front of clients?
Absolutely. Kind of my thought process, or what I go into as, now, like with the business owner, there's, as you can attest to, umpteen different hats you have to wear. But when it comes to the dog training side of it, and as the handler, kind of my philosophy or my approach with my dogs should not detract from the hunt. And in fact, they should be an added bonus. And more often than not, you'll get those comments like, wow, that was a great retriever. What a great dog. Or, she doesn't quit, or you get the jokes of people wanting to buy the dog. But for me, I don't have a minute in the field. Like if I'm running Daisy and she blows off a cast, it's like, I know the bird's right there. I know you can smell there's another one, but the one I need you to get that's to your left, while the dead one's to your right, the one to the left is crippled, and I need you to get that. And trust me, and she blows off and she goes and picks the right one up for whatever reason. I can't sit there and whistle sit, no, and run out and correct it. Okay, get that one, come back, let's try this again.
And meanwhile, not to cut you off, Ben, but meanwhile, the audience you have in the blind is usually probably like, oh, that was a great retrieve at that point, right?
oh yeah, they're like, oh, that dog is amazing. And it's like, yeah, okay, thanks. Or, my personal favorite is just, I want you to go back. You line the dog up because I need you to go get the one that's 150 yards out. I can get the one that's 40 yards, and you line them up, and they just happen to take that little curve because they see it, or they're tired because it's halfway through the hunt and it's 6 shooters. We're shooting ducks and geese. They're tired. Whatever the situation is. And they're like, man, that dog's just on fire today. And you're just like, no, she's not, but that's okay. And it's one of those things that you have to, everybody says it, but like hunting unravels travel on a training season, testing season, whatever you want to call it. And you have to make mental notes. You have to make notes. Like, I'm sure you do the same thing, whether it's in a book. I've become really obsessed with just doing notes on my phone just because I have a Mac. So it's really easy to cross everything's there together, and being able to just, here's what Daisy did in the field. Boom. This was something I saw. So in training this summer, I'll set that scenario back up, and here's the blind, clear as day. I need you to go get the blind that you can't see. And we'll work on that. And, when with what I'm talking about is you're starting to get into that nitpicky, really fine-tuned stuff that for me, it's about speed, because again, I don't have time to be out front of the blind, blowing whistles, casting all over the place, because the next group's coming and the clients aren't paying for a dog show. They're paying for a bird show.
That's right.
And so, yeah, it's frustrating to see the stuff unravel, because you're like, I know you can do better, and I know I should be correcting you, but I can't. And it comes with the territory. It is what it is. But it's something that you have to work through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's an interesting perspective, again, because I think if most clients that hunt with you, I'm sure, are like, oh my gosh, I wish my dog could get 80 days in the field every year. I wish my dog, and there's that side of it. And without a doubt, that is a great benefit, right? Like, I mean, your dogs, my dogs, they get to pick up, probably the number of birds in a year that some dogs get to in a lifetime, right? And so we're not downplaying that at all, but it is interesting, the unraveling that does happen. And the worst part is that, okay, let's just say something like that happens with Lady in, end of September. Well, it's not like you have this big break to where you can break it off, you can sit her down, you can go and this is going to, if she's done it once and then she does it twice, and then she has 3 more months to continue to do it to where you can't make the correction you need to make and fix what needs to be fixed. That's a lot of repetition that she is going to get in her head that she can get over it. So as you transition into the training season, like, how much of the front end of your training season is, all right, we're going to go back, we are going to really identify the things that you struggle with, and I'm going to convince you that you're not in control anymore. So like, how much of the front end of your training season is let's really work on the things that unraveled from last season?
It is the bulk of it. I mean, by August, I'll probably start getting into, outside of 5-point or 9-point, like outside of that, I won't really dive into a whole ton of stuff until I get to August. And I should preface this as well while we're talking about it. I'm looking outside the window right now. It was about 75 degrees here yesterday. It is currently snowing, and they're calling for like 6 to 8 inches of snow by the end of the day tomorrow. Jeez. I probably could have gone out and trained yesterday. I would have been covered in mud. My equipment would have been covered in mud for 1 day worth of training. So instead of setting up drills and stuff, it's obedience, and it's heel work up and down the driveway, which is exactly what we did. It's being, as you say all the time, it's that intentionality of what you're doing. And something as simple as, people talk about, and we talk about it all the time. And I know it's leading up to training season, and people are like, okay, well, now it's time to pull the gear out. And it's like, every single day, the little details, the little things matter. So I have 4 dogs. They're all in the house. They have their kennels in the house, but they're house dogs. Those dogs that front door opens, butts down. You don't go out until I tell you to. And I release each one of them individually. Same thing coming back. And it's just that doesn't matter whether it's in the house, whether it's in the camper, whether it's at somebody else's house, whether it's going into a store when I take them if I take lady in to go into a Canadian Tire to just do some basic just obedience in the middle of winter when it's cold. But having that intentionality with your obedience and being on it all the time, I think for me, knowing how short my training window is, because on top of it being snowing, I'm hoping next week to get out and do some snow goose hunting because we've got snow geese rolling through, and I would not mind getting out and enjoying a little bit of that. So trying to, how do I fit all of this in when in reality I've got May, June, July, and August. I got a 4-month window at best to fix 3 to 4 months worth of problems, plus a winter where all we've really done is obedience, which is important, and the obedience is the core of it, but we've done it in the house or we've done it in a store. I haven't been able to work on remote sit a whole bunch. I haven't been able to work on, recall from a large distance. And just, so I think that the beginning, kind of back to the question that was asked, that May, June especially, that's obedience. That is an insane amount of heel work. And heel is probably I don't know whether you're going to laugh at me or not. Heel is the most difficult one that I find to work on because it's a mental thing with me about, no, you're not quite perfect. No, you're not, and watching the videos of you and watching the videos of Lewis and going, look, the dog is where it needs to be. I can't paint that exact line. And sometimes they're going to be a half step forward, but it's also that, are they a half step forward? And if I give them an inch, are they going to take a mile, or is it just they had a rough, so for me, it's that focus on all of that, and trying to get that level of control of look, this is a team, but we can't do, I'll relate to Bennett because I can hear him squawking upstairs. He can't walk before he figures out how to crawl, and he certainly can't run before he figures out how to walk. And so to get to that next stuff and fix the blowing off a cast or taking a banana shape on a line, I can't fix all that if I can't get the dog to sit in a whistle, if I can't get the dog to be controlled when I walk up to the training line that I have established as a setup. None of it matters if we're out of control before we start.
Mm-hmm. I love the crawl, walk, run analogy because I think it's just so easy, to understand of why there's the progressions, that we take. But man, you're spot on. I mean, at the end of the day, let's just take the example that you had with Lady there. That's an obedience issue, right? Like at the end of the day, if we were to boil it down to what is this, it's obedience. Yes, it's obedience at a distance. Yes, it's obedience on retrieve. Yes, it's obedience with the distraction of live birds and scent and everything else, fighting their nose, fighting their natural, everything, but it's obedience. And so I love the going back to the obedience side. I just had a guy at the kennel the other day that, he has a dog going in through, birding gun intro. And he made a comment that, I think I might just roll right into obedience with you guys because, if you guys can get that done, it's boring. And I just want it to be done so I can move on, to different things. And I'm like, okay, even if we do the obedience, it's not done. Right. This is something that you're going to continue to do the rest of the dog's life. I had a picture of Brock behind him. I was like, that dog right there, because he had oohed and out over Brock and heard, stories and all that stuff. I'm like, that dog right there that you talked about, he does obedience literally every single day. He's 9. He does it every day. And so it doesn't go away. And I think that is, I've really harped on that a lot here recently. Whether it's on this podcast or Retriever Roadmap, because I've seen it more and more of people wanting to get by with that. But then when there's frustration in the field, in a training setup, where did that frustration stem from? Well, it's because the dog wasn't obedient. I would say 9.9 out of 10 times it comes down to an obedience issue. And yet it's the one thing that we neglect to really focus on. And so I think you're spot on with that, man. I think it's so interesting. Just the repetitiveness of we always talk about repetition as a positive thing, but how repetition could work against you. And then, for you, I hadn't even thought of that, man. You have such a short window weather-wise to go, and then your season starts, because when do you start season up there?
September 1st is the opening day.
Okay. So, I mean, my goodness, if you can't really get out until May, and you're talking, I have 4 months to get all this stuff done. Like I hadn't even thought of that, so you have the weather component, that you're fighting too. So, I mean, you really have to be intentional about, what you're doing and how you're doing it, because you have such a short window.
Yeah. And I have to, and that's without going down a different rabbit hole, but you have to focus on kind of what you're doing. And when you know that you're going to spend 3 to 4 months, because, for me, my season will go until December 23rd. And from start to finish, we've got birds and there's hunting to be had start to finish all the way through. So knowing that I have a 4-month window of hunting, I have to be so intentional with what's important to me. And I know you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, and why 5 and 9 point has become like, I can't tell you how many times in a day I run that, or in a week I run that drill. Probably that drill gets run at least 2 to 3 times a week minimum, regardless of what else I'm doing, simply because the importance that I drive home on run a straight line. And it's because I know by the end of October, we're going to be lax on that. We're going to get loose on that. But back to what I said earlier about they're here for a bird show, not a dog show. And they're not there for me to sit out there, whistle, cast, do all that stuff. And for what we're hunting, I have to be intentional in it's wide open fields, especially in the South. I can watch a dog run away for 3 days. It's that flat, and just take the line and run it, as opposed to, but I also need to work in casting because it's important. I'm going to end up in a situation where I need an angle back, or I need I need just to push a little bit further, to break down a little bit, whatever that is. And I only have a window to do it, on top of being a dad, being a husband. I also, on top of that, have, and I don't know if I've even mentioned this to you, but I have a full-time job as well with Ducks Unlimited. So I have all that responsibility on top of Cloud9 as well. And you have to find your time, and you have to be very, you can't just go out and go through the motions. You have to know what you're doing. You have to prep. So the night before, I'll prep my setup with the field I'm going to, draw it out on map marks or whatever that looks like. What am I going to do? We're going to get there, work on this. And I think it's just being intentional regardless is you'll have better results. I would rather a 20-minute intentional session than an hour long, just we're going through motion.
Mm-hmm. So the one thing that I'm interested in is if you see any kind of, call it a mental reset, call it a break, but after you're done with the season, because you're hunting, you're in the field so much, do you see any kind of like a recharge, from the dogs if you give them time off between the season ending and when you start kind of getting back into training? And do you feel like the dogs need that time just to like recharge the batteries and get back, to full strength?
Yes, I think having that recharge is important. And in fact, actually today was kind of the first real, I lean in on Daisy a lot. Daisy and Lady are kind of the main two that I hunt. And I lean Daisy, especially, is kind of that, Daisy's my ace. She's the go-to. She's kind of just, I don't have to think when she's there. She knows what she's doing. Life's good. And with her today, it was like, okay, she's ready to go. She's had her break. She knows it's about that time. There was probably about 400 or 500 snow geese that flew over the house this morning, and I had them outside, and I could see her kind of perk up, and she's looking at me, and it's just, they all wagged her tail. She always wagged the tail. It was just different in the way that she looked because she heard them, and it's like, okay, the recharge is had. We've had our rest. We've had our relax. She's got to just, we've done some obedience work over the winter in the house when we've been able to get out on walks. Okay, Dad, I'm ready again. It's time to go. And so, yeah, I think that break is important, just like it is for us. I mean, people go on vacations, I talked about on the podcast that you shut your phone off in the evening. You need that break. You need that mental just recharge, whatever that looks like for each individual. And for the dogs, they just need that time to just recharge and relax, especially when you're picking up the volume of birds you are, and it's important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. So, when the recharge thing, I think is interesting, because I do think that's one of those moments where, we humanize these dogs in so many ways, but I feel like there's certain times that we don't, we lose it. And I feel like sometimes that could be it. I know for me, we got done with pheasant season roughly, I don't know, it was probably 3 weeks ago. And my dogs have basically had off since then. And I'm seeing it. Like when they came back, I mean, it was, they were tired. They're just kind of a little lazy with some things, but I didn't really consider it laziness. I just think we were just going that hard for so long. And, so I truly believe it. I think that mental break, it refreshes them. I want them at that energy. And you and I were talking about before we started recording here, that kind of, some things that you've heard over the season, people, talk about, their dog would hunt every day of the year, if they had the opportunity kind of thing, but you also talked about the importance of, rotating and giving them the breaks and having to have multiple dogs at the level you need them so that one can be performing while the next one's recovering so that the next one can go perform at the top level, right?
100%. I mean, we're both NFL guys, and that's what I look at. I mean, you look at a pro athlete, they've got a bye week window to try and get their body right to recover, at least try and mend some of the bumps and bruises. And I think that, whether you're hunting every day or whether you're, and I'm not in the field every day. In terms of, I have other guys that need to get in the field. I have employees that need to get in the field. And sometimes as a business owner, I need to go deal with a landowner or whatever the case is, but the dog needs that time off and needs that break. I have Minnie. She's my older one that I don't really talk about a ton. Just, I don't do much with her in training. She's kind of more of the obedience is there, but she's more of she's become Heather's dog. She's become the farm dog, if you want to call it that. But at 2.5, when I was going really, really hard, like as just a guide for an outfitter, I was in the field almost every single day with just one dog. She tore a cruciate ligament. Now, whether that's related to, just her genetics or the fact that it was every single day, go, 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 go. But because of that I've not had that dog again. Heather and I talk about that all the time. That knee on Minnie is a lot of why I am where I am in terms of the dogs that I have, but it's just, she was robbed of that because I just went so hard every day with her. And on top of training during the summer, I was 6-7 days a week trying to train her. It's just too much. You're trying to do too much. And those dogs, they need that recharge. They're an athlete. They need that downtime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no doubt, treating them like athletes and truly looking at them as the athletes they are, I think it'll open your eyes to, what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done, when to pump the brakes, when to hit the gas, from a trainer or coach, standpoint. I think it's a really great way to look at it. Something I'm interested in, Ben, because you've always, from as long as I've known you, you've always been serious about training your dogs. But obviously, being that you are in the field so much now, you are spending a lot, naturally, I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, you're spending a lot more time with your dogs in the field now than you had been, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, do you feel that you are able to better read your dogs because you spend so much more time in the field with them? Has that been, kind of an attribute that you've been able to just gain or get better at, just because that time together?
Yeah, I think the time together definitely. Whether it's in the, I'd say the field definitely helps. I'm not going to discredit being in the field and understanding that side of it, but also I have made it a point of trying. Again, I've got 4, so it makes things 3 specifically that I use for hunting, mainly the 2. But anyways, being intentional with spending even as much as 20 minutes one-on-one with each of those dogs every single day, whether it's, at night when I let them all out for their final washroom break and I pick one, at night, last night it was Daisy. I let each one of them in the house, and then Daisy and I just on the deck for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and just, there's a pet, there's a conversation, there's just, how you doing, trying to connect with that dog. And throughout the day, trying to do that with each one of them and being intentional with what I'm doing to try and figure out
just different cues? Is there stuff I'm maybe not picking up on when I tell them to sit? Why did you take a second to sit there versus why did you sit intentional? Like, why didn't you sit right away? And I think that, trying to spend as much time as you can and looking at it from a different standpoint of just they're just my dog, and how do I read them better? How do I'll never forget you did it, whether it was a podcast. I think it was, you talked about it on a podcast, and it's also in the Retriever Roadmap of the one dog you have that you had to step back and look from 5,000 feet and realize that it was the tail. And when the tail stopped wagging, when you line them up for the blind, and so trying to pick up on those cues. And time with them is the only real way that you're going to find that out. And in the field, you start to figure out, okay, today we're a little bit loose, we're a little bit over the top excited. How do we rein this back in? That walk from, and I'm sure you'll relate to this, that walk from the truck to the blind after you're done setting and you park the truck's going to tell you mostly, okay, what dog did I get today? Where are we today? And I think that's something that just comes with time and experience. And again, back to being intentional with what you're doing.
Man, that was it for me. That I knew that there was going to be something in our conversation that made me go, okay, that is where Ben is taking like this major step in his, day to day, because it's a business now. And to me, that's it, right? Because I mean, I believe, could be wrong, but I believe that the majority of, dog owners are not spending that intentional time going, okay, this is relationship time, right? But the reason that you are is because this is your business. Like, the relationship you have with your dog is your business, because that's the presentation. Okay? That's what people are going to go back and talk about. They're going to talk about the birds, but if you can go put on a show with the dogs, I know, like you mentioned before, it's not a dog show, but a great dog enhances that experience tenfold. And so it is imperative that you have the relationship, that you can have kind of an unspoken language with the dog, right? And like, I know for me, just an example of that, people are going, oh, what could an unspoken relationship be? I mean, for me, the difference of tweet for a sit and tweet for a sit is the difference of me telling a dog, sit or sit down right now, right? Like, and, from a presentation standpoint, like, nobody sees that, but we know it, right? Me and the dog knows it. When Brock hears that, he goes, oh yeah, I upset Dad on that one, right? Nobody else knows it. There's nothing else that has to be said, but it's the relationship that allows you to get that. And I think from a mental preparation standpoint, like that's it. Like, that, to me, that relationship that you just talked about and why it's important for you and your business, you and your minimal time, which is one of the things I took out of this too. Like, you have such minimal time to go and revamp, tighten everything up, get ready, take the next steps. Like, I know that you're always looking to do, and get ready for that next season. And man, it has to come. The relationship has to be an incredible part of that.
100%. And I think that it's just something that, people say they have the relationship with the dog, and I'm not discrediting that they don't, but having that ability to just that bond, that the ability to communicate without communicating. Even, you talk about the whistle or something as simple as you blow that whistle, and normally, in my head, I can go, okay, normally I give them 2-3 seconds, boom, here's the cast. And I make them wait 5 to 6 seconds. They're like, I'm telling you, just calm down without telling you. You're 100 yards away from me or 200 yards away from me, and I'm still communicating with you. Just take a breath. It's okay. Okay, let's go. And but they know that's, Daisy knows what I'm doing. And half the time, Daisy knows what I'm going to do before I do it. And I think to get to that level of relationship is obviously the training. For me, it's the process of training. And I know we've talked about that plenty, but building that relationship through training, but also out of training. You like I said earlier, with the being intentional with your time. There's a lot of levels to it, and there's a lot of intricacies to it. And to me, it's more than just training a dog. You're creating that bond that there's stuff that you're not able to explain to people unless they know and they get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such good stuff, man. It's such good stuff. So I'm gonna wrap this up, but I want to do one of our dog bowl questions and bring you in on the loop of this. So the dog bowls are just questions that people send in, and I think what's cool is that you and I can both answer one of these from a different perspective. So so I'm gonna go ahead and pull one out of here.
I will say, I think I was actually one of the first dog bowl questions when Aaron pulled it, which I thought was really cool. I was one of the first three. I was one of the first three questions, which I thought was really cool.
Which one was your question?
I knew you were going to ask me that one, and I have to go back and listen at it. But it was something about it was to do with juggling family and business.
I love that. Yeah, and I think so. I do remember there being a question like that, and I just think what's cool about that is like, so you get it, right? And I think a lot of people, I really do believe a lot of people do get it. But every once in a while there's not, right? Because like my job, probably very similar to your job, it is looked at as a hobby for the majority of people, right? So naturally it's treated like a hobby by some people. And it is difficult, right? Because like, when someone wants to come at 7 o'clock instead of at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when that answer is, well, I have a job, and it's like, well, so do I, and so it becomes a little bit of a juggling act. But I think it is a cool thing to talk about, especially people like yourself that I truly believe that the more great people you can surround yourself with, and you are certainly one of those people in my life, but then also that when you do that at a business level, when you can have people you can go and talk to and just, whether it's vent to, whether it's just have a shoulder to lean on and just talk through some situations, it enhances our network tenfold. And so it's really a cool thing, that we've been able to do. But, okay, so here's what it is. Actually kind of a cool one. And this, I'm really interested to hear what you say about this. So, okay. What would your dream hunt with your dog be? Which dog would you bring? Money is not an issue.
That's a tough one because I feel like most of you people are going to say Canada on that one. So I've been there, got that one.
Right.
I think for me, and you may laugh at this, somebody else may laugh at this being a Canada guy, it's a timber hunt. And it's not for the limits, it's not for the birds, it's for the experience. When you had Whitney down and she talked about it on the podcast, and that was her first time, and having been to North Dakota, that intimacy, the dog I'm taking without question is Daisy. On that one, that is something that it's the experience. It's just the whole, every time I'm in the South and I go down to the States, and the further south you get, the more passionate it gets. Duck hunting is like a religion, I like to say, down there. And, for a guy who's as passionate and as crazy about hunting as it is, you feel like you're on a bit of an island up here. And so to be able to go down to the Arkansas and experience the duck hunting in the timber, the boat ride in, just everything that goes along with it, watching the world wake up from inside the trees, that would be the hunt for me. A very close second, if I can, is probably Alaska, but that I'm probably not taking a dog on. So I'm going to go timber hunting with Daisy.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, you have a guy that we can make that happen. So let's make that one happen. Cause I want to make that one happen for you. So let's make sure we do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
what's yours?
So for me, I'm going to tell you about, this was an idea that I had, and I actually had it to where we were going to do it. Like we had the plan set up. We had partners behind it that were going to help us fund it. Like it was all going to happen. And what it was going to be was I was going to take Brock, and most of us that are waterfowl hunters have heard of the North American 41, which is the 41 kinds of waterfowl that you can harvest in North America. And I wanted to go document and tell a story of Brock picking up the 41. Like there have been very few people that have done the 41. And I'm going to say there's never been a dog, to do it. And that was going to be my thing with them. But to your last point, there was just going to be no safe way to do it. when you start talking about the Alaska side of things, like we heard some crazy stories. We're talking like, okay, so for some of the sea ducks, especially up in Alaska, they're talking about killer whales are a problem, right? But you generally know when the killer whales are there. I'm like, okay, well, generally isn't good enough for me, right? And and then the other side of it, which was crazy, was I don't know if there were sea lions or seals, but apparently like there have been dogs that have been like on retrieve, and like they swim underneath the dog, and like apparently they have like razors as for like claws, and like literally like basically like gut the dog as it's like, and all of a sudden the dog like, and I'm just like, I hear these stories, I'm like, yeah, I'm out. Like as cool of a story that they would be, like I'm not doing that. Like the risk is not worth the reward for me in that case. And so, but I really wanted to do that. That would have been my thing. If money wasn't an issue, if safety wasn't an issue in this case, that would be that'd be it for me. But one of the things that I do want to do is I want to get up there. Brock is going to be, so he's 9 now, so he's getting up there. I really want to have Brock hunt with you, up in Canada. I mean, to me, I just think that's a big deal. Hopefully we can, we're going to make that happen here in just 7-8 months. But yep. Man, when you start creeping into that, it's hard to talk about, but when you start creeping into those age ranges, like you just never know, and so to me, that's really the only place he hasn't hunted is up with you. And so I want to make that one happen. So that'd be mine.
We will make that happen. I am beyond excited to watch, to just sit back and watch Brock do his thing. That is, yeah, I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, like you say, when you get into those ages and you start getting up there, it's like, man, where did the time go?
Man, I know it. It's crazy. It is. Well, hey man, I know you got stuff to do, so I'm going to let you run, but thank you so much for spending the time. I love getting kind of the mental side of you and kind of what you have going on. And again, I just think it's so valuable. You get to hunt so much more than all of us do and be in the field, and I think there's so much benefit to that, but there's from an experience side of it, it's something we can all appreciate. So thank you so much for taking the time. Please give both Heather and Bennett my best, and I'm sure we'll be talking again to you soon.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thanks, Josh.
All right, buddy. Thank you. All right, everybody. So that does it here. Thank you again. If you guys are looking for a fantastic Canada hunt, go check out Cloud9 Outfitters. I just cannot speak highly enough of Ben, just from a person, from whether it's a father, a friend, a business owner. I mean, he's the real deal. So you will not be disappointed, and probably you'll pick up a new lifelong friend along the way if I know anything about Ben. So what we'll do here is I'm going to try to, again, I really want to stick on this mental approach thing because I think it's so valuable for so many of us. So stick around here for our next episode, as I'll bring somebody else in that has a little different perspective of from Ben, and you'll see the similarities and differences on how they are going to approach training season. So have a great day, have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to Eukanuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.